Like,
mate, there's like a penalty nearly every game.
No, I think
honestly,
in the what was it? There was a stat that came out in the second round of games. I think there'd already been like 16 penalties. You know, a striker knows he's not going to score. Is he just going to whack it at a defender and hope it hits his hand?
Yeah.
Because if that is the case, penalty's going to be given.
I'm also suggesting that we keep the no room for racism brand alive.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And we bring that up. We now, what I'm trying to say is we now shift from Black Lives Matter to the league, in my opinion, is two-leg horse race. I don't think
you could go as far as to say, is it a one-horse race?
My honest opinion, he's got to finish it, Sam. He's got to bang that.
It's poor.
He's got to bang it.
He's had a practice because he had one before it was offside, and then the next one's even worse.
Right, literally a minute, and I can see all this sort of like kerfuffle on the left.
Kerfuffle.
Is that a really bad word to use?
Oh god,
no.
Kerfuffle.
Like that, and he's like, yes, sure, and
sorry, what was that accent?
German.
Hello.
Oh, you started.
I started, yeah, for once. Thank you very much. But that's topical, doing the old Aubameyang Lacazette, because this is the Football Corner.
This is the Football Corner, and this is the second episode of Football Corner, isn't it?
Second episode. It's as you know, I think we said in the first episode, it is a passion of ours, talking about football, and just an idea that we're having, maybe to speak about our passion and something that is topical in terms of the sports world, Premier League. I thought it'd be a good idea to express our opinions on it, and for those people who may not have heard the results or anything like that, for us to tell it to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, without further ado, also for those who haven't heard the first episode, we are Arsenal supporters, but we are not biased. We try to be as unbiased as possible.
Yeah, at the end of the day, look, it's just so you know we're Arsenal fans. Doesn't mean that we're gonna completely slate on Spurs. If anything, in episode 1 I said a lot of good things about them. And,
honestly, episode 1 I couldn't talk highly enough of Spurs in the second half anyway. But
yeah.
So the first topic of conversation, we're going to discuss the weekend results. And first thing I've got written down here was West Brom versus Chelsea. West Brom went 3-0 up against Chelsea.
Are you mad?
I'm not mad because it happened.
Are you mad?
And something else was a bit mental. Thiago Silva, who didn't cost any money, supposedly one of the best defenders in the world, one of the best centre-backs ever, some people might argue, he's getting absolutely mugged off by Callum Robinson.
Who's that? You know what though, can I just say something? This is a clear example of trying to move too fast. I had this conversation with someone yesterday that they have spent so much money, and it's great, yeah, whatever, like, they've invested so much money, and they've brought so many new faces in, that it's sort of really... I mean, can you imagine the shift and the change it's made? He played so many young kids from the academy last year, and they actually played so well. Like, I honestly didn't think they would have got top 8 with the transfer ban they had. Yeah, exactly. And I think they did so well with the kids there, and I think it's a shame actually that they're actually basically benching them.
Well, this is what I said in, I think, a previous episode, or even our Premier League predictions, that Chelsea did so well with their youngsters, the likes of, maybe Mason Mount, who is getting games, but Tammy Abraham, Tomori, even Pulisic, is he going to be able to get into the team when he's back? Because they've done so well, but they've just got Havertz, they've got Ziyech, they've got Timo Werner, who you're a very big fan of. And I just think it isn't fair.
I actually think he is going to be I think he's already hit the ground running. I feel like he's.
I disagree.
Well, it's early doors, so let's see. But I did want to end with this Chelsea game on a good note. I've got to give credit to them. They got it back to 3-3. Well, they didn't win the game, but to do that from 3-0 down, it takes a character to do that. I think you've
got to give credit to both teams, because West Brom went into that game severe underdogs. People are thinking, probably myself included, that they're going to have there's going to be a hard time.
Well, there might have even been an element from Chelsea thinking it's West Brom,
maybe
just walk in.
but then Okay, the third goal wasn't great, but the first 2 goals, quality. Like, I'd have been happy if they would have scored for my team.
I'm sure West Brom fans were actually quite happy with that result.
I think that they'll be a little bit gutted that
if
they didn't win.
you told a West Brom fan,
Before
will
the
you
game,
take a draw?
100%.
Yes.
100%. But I think that actually does show that maybe people need to take them a bit seriously because they have got an attacking threat. Maybe they need to sharpen up in the defensive areas, but they can score goals, and as we can see, they can take on the big boys. So that was the Chelsea game. There was a really big talking point which I purposefully didn't talk to you about when it happened because I wanted just to get your reaction now.
Yeah. Natural reaction.
So Brighton versus Man United. First of all, was a mental game. I don't know if you watched the whole game.
I didn't know.
So it was 3-2 to Man United. Brighton dominated. They hit the post 5 times. They scored in the 95th minute. Right? I'm going mental because...
Oh, you know what? I did watch the last few minutes of this game. Yeah.
Oh, it was mental, mate. And 95th minute, header. It wasn't even a good header, but it was a goal. They deserved it. They played so well. Then, all of a sudden, Man United, the full-time whistle goes, then Man United get a penalty.
I actually, honestly, when I looked at this, I just thought, is this even possible? Because once the whistle's blown, you've got a lot of them Brighton players walking off. They're walking off. It's game's over.
But I mean, this sounds so simple to say. Once the final whistle has gone, the game's finished. You can't change the result.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I don't know when the full-time whistle went. I know Neil Mopay put his hand up in the build-up, but surely the final whistle's gone. You then can't do a VAR check on...
It's mental, because I just feel like this is such a different sort of football we're watching now. It's so different to what we were used to, right?
Something that is really, really annoying me is this new penalty thing. It's pathetic, because, I speak from...
Mate, there's a penalty nearly every game.
No, I think...
Honestly.
In the what was there was a stat that came out in the second round of games. I think there'd already been 16 penalties. That's ridiculous. That's actually outrageous.
It is killing the game. I actually feel like how easy it is now to get a penalty, whether it's a foul or a handball or a handball.
Yeah.
With commas, inverted commas.
But then you think realistically, if are people going to eventually say, a striker knows he's not going to score, is he just going to whack it at a defender and hope it hits his hand?
Yeah.
Because if that is the case, penalty is going to be given.
Yeah.
Because realistically, it isn't even if his hand's in an unnatural position, as they say. If it hits his hand, it's a handball, which I understand, plain and simple, it sounds like it should be. But if it isn't a clear and obvious, reaction to get to the ball, you should definitely either give the benefit of the doubt or just not give it. Because it's not... there's been handballs in the past where defenders, the players have gone past the goalkeeper, defenders dived on the line to try and save it. That's a handball.
Yeah.
But I just think this rule is a bit outrageous, if I'm honest. That's just my opinion.
It is, as I said to you, it just feels like it's really sort of drowning the game, and I hope the FA really seriously look at it. This is going a bit off topic, but what's your thoughts with this whole Black Lives Matter with the going on the knee down, but going on one knee? I do support it. I 110% support it, and I think we should constantly keep celebrating diversity in football.
100%.
I just feel like we should walk away from Black Lives Matter, because unfortunately that is now a far right group.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter, that saying, I agree with, and I also agree with there's no room for racism. I think that is the main. That should be the main sort of motto in football at the moment.
Well, it was
because Black Lives Matter. Yes, I completely agree with that. But there is also a bigger picture.
Yeah.
There are also nationalities that are, segregated, and it's not, So I'd rather it be a whole picture sort of thing.
I mean, this is. I understand what you're saying. I think that, and this is maybe just what I personally think it does, is, like I said, I think taking the knee it's great because, Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. You know, we should celebrate that. But I actually think, in terms of a football point of view, right from the start, it takes the intensity out of the game. I think, personally. I think it should be something where the players respect it. Like, for example, they had Black Lives Matter on players' back, like their backs. Yeah. And that was when it was all like a massive, like, really topical. Obviously, it's never going to go away because of everything that's happened. But I think that you need to, without sounding harsh, get back to a sense of normality. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that might come across as quite harsh, but...
Yeah, no. I'm suggesting that, but I'm also suggesting that we keep the No Room for Racism brand alive.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And we bring that up. We now, what I'm trying to say is we now shift from Black Lives Matter to No Room for Racism. And it's not taking anything away from that.
Do you think it's two separate
I don't want to come across as
I know what you mean,
whatever,
but
it's sort of like, yes, Black lives, of course they matter, but let's all actually, because I actually feel like, in a way, it can segregate a group of people saying Black Lives Matter. Let's actually look at racism. No room for racism in general. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I agree with that comment, but yeah,
I don't want to offend anyone or anything.
So something that we've both, again, in our Premier League predictions, we predicted for a little club, not even a little club, massive club, under the name of Leeds United to have a good season.
Oh yes.
I mean, they've been unbelievable.
Class, and I think I'll give a lot of credit to the manager. I think he's a bit mystic, you know. He's sitting on that, whatever it is. He's just different, isn't he? And you can see that he gives the team a character, gives the team their roles, and they work really well. I mean, there's not. I mean, other than, is it Rodrigo? Yeah. There's not really like a star player, is there? Like, you got that Phillips.
You got Phillips but that's it. But
they're playing really good football. And I'm really, really interested to see how they get on with the rest of the season. I think they'll do quite well.
I actually think, and you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think everyone will support their own clubs this year. Yeah. I think everyone secretly wants Leeds to do really well. Yeah. Like, obviously, when they play Leeds, they want their team to win. But I feel like I want Leeds to do well because I think they've gone through such a hard time. Was it 16 years they've been away? Yeah. And last few seasons in the Championship, they've been fantastic.
I can imagine they're quite similar to a city like Liverpool, where football is virtually everything.
I agree. I think so.
I can kind of see that. So let's get this clear. So we had quite a few last-minute penalties this weekend. Didn't we? So it was a bit mental, wasn't it?
Do you know what? I think that there's two sides of the story. The last-minute penalty adds to the drama, but it also, with VAR, I've got my own opinions on VAR. I personally think, yes, it's good for the game, but it can also ruin the game.
Unfortunately, for me, it's inconsistent.
No, I agree.
If every time you thought VAR really helped out the game there, and it made a fair result, then I'm all for it. But when it's inconsistent, and you can even see as a viewer, so for example, I'm watching a Man United versus Man City, right? I've got no interest in supporting either end team. Yeah. And I see an unfair VAR decision. I just think this is ruining the whole thing.
It does ruin it. It goes back to...
I shouldn't be watching this, because now it also makes it nearly makes the game irrelevant. It's just like, well, what's the point in watching this? It's like, it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, because I feel like the football, let's say, that we grew up on, it makes us sound so old, but like we grew up on where there was no VAR, for example, and there probably was the odd goal that was offside that counted, and maybe a handball that didn't go against them. But I think, like, for example, it all started with that Lindelof handball, which wasn't a handball, if I'm honest. And then there was one when Arsenal played, and Gabriel pretty much did the same thing, but one was given, one wasn't. And then Eric Dyer last week, like, it's just... It isn't consistent, as you said, and I feel like realistically they should have tested this. I know they didn't have time because of everything that's going on in the world right now, but they shouldn't have just implemented a rule without testing that gone into it, because now it's a mess. Like it's a joke, if I'm honest.
So Spurs, they drew in the end, didn't they? With Newcastle. Mourinho was very upset and walked off.
Yeah,
after the penalty. I can kind of see where he's coming from. I listened to a bit of his interview after the game where he said, "I will never give charity to the FA." He's obviously very upset. I can see where he's coming from, because obviously the team worked very hard throughout the whole 90 minutes, and then it sort of ruined at the very end. But then at the same time, I feel like, you know, sometimes you can't. You have to score more than one goal to kill the game. So, you know, there's two sides of that story, and, you know, you could also argue, was that penalty fair? You know, and that's probably what he was angling at. Like he felt probably very cheated. But unfortunately, as you've just mentioned, this is the Premier League we are living in now. So,
exactly.
You know, it happens to Spurs one week, then it will happen to our team one week. Then so, I mean, even Steve Bruce, he was fuming. He was fuming, and if anything, it benefited him and his team. But you know, again, you know, I do think the FA will not allow this to carry on. Personally, I don't think they will. They will let games be ruined like that.
I don't think they should. I mean, going back to your Mourinho comment, like I thought it wasn't great. You know, I wasn't a fan of him walking off the pitch. However, I think Mourinho is one of the managers who maybe he definitely did come across in his early years as being a bit arrogant, let's say, because he knew he was an amazing manager. I think now he's a very smart talker, Jose Mourinho, because what you said about the whole money with the FA, that, you know, he only wanted to talk about how well his players had done, because Tottenham played very well in that game. They got the goal they needed, and they defended extremely well, because Newcastle, I think, only had 2 shots, and one of them was a penalty. So
yeah, I mean Spurs, when you look at them, they've been playing a lot more games than any other team at the moment. They've been balancing Premier League, League Cup, and Europa League. You know, so it's very intense. And I've got to praise them. I mean, this week they've smashed it. So they beat Chelsea, League Cup.
Yeah.
I think they deserved it.
The penalties in that game, by the way, were
very odd.
They were phenomenal.
I thought they were so odd, because they did about 8 shots.
They all went the same way.
Yeah, but you just felt like you watched
I just thought the quality, it was beautiful.
Yeah. But the second half, they really sort of jumped out, and they really sort of jumped out and wanted that game. And, you know, I guess realistically, that is, I'm not lowering Spurs by this, but that is basically what they should be. In my opinion, they should be aiming to get the league title, because it breaks that ice of not having won a cup in such a long time. Yeah. You know, a League Cup, then an FA Cup, then aim for the Premier League, then aim for the Champions League. That's essentially what they should do.
I think Tottenham have the quality in some areas to compete. However, like now, for example, Son's injured. They've lost a massive bit of quality there.
Yeah.
And, okay, they brought in Gareth Bale. Is Bale going to hit the ground running? You know, we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to be fair, I kind of hope that Gareth Bale, from a football point of view, and a football fan, comes back and is the Gareth Bale that left Tottenham. Because he was so good.
He's definitely missed the element of being sort of welcomed. From what I heard anyway, the Real Madrid fans didn't really warm to him. At Spurs, he's already a legend. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they love him.
Anyway, moving on from Spurs, let's get right out of their arsehole.
Well, there is, I think the main story is, was it Leicester 5, Man City 2? Mental.
Scenes.
Absolutely
3
mental.
penalties.
3 penalties. Again,
I mean, we keep bringing this up every game. There's a penalty. It's just stupid.
Although this was the game where I genuinely think they were all penalties.
Yes, I agree. I do agree, to be honest. But it's still sort of insane to think that calibre of team is giving away so many
penalties.
Because without them pens, it's 2-2.
Yeah.
You know, so it must be quite demoralising that City have spent so much money on defenders. They've spent X amount on Stones, X amount on Otamendi, Laporte.
They've just got an Ake.
And they've constantly and they constantly keep trying to replace company, and they can't do it.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, they've just brought in. Otamendi's now gone. Otamendi's gone to, was it Benfica, and they've brought in Ruben Diaz, which
that's it.
Is a good defender.
Yeah.
However, I don't want to sound rude, because you've got the likes of Bruno, who came from the Portuguese league, but he comes from a league where it isn't one of the top 5 leagues in the world.
Well, you're always taking a gamble. You know, no matter what team you are, even if you're buying the likes of Eden Hazard and you're Real Madrid, you know,
Yeah.
scored one goal in the whole season, so, and was it 100 million euros? So
Totally outrageous.
So you're always taking a gamble, and you know, I honestly feel like getting killed by Leicester, they really have to now turn their sort of performance around and really hit home, because Liverpool just walk away with it again.
Well, yeah.
And it is this league, which was going to be one of our final points for today's episode, is that the league, in my opinion, is two-leg horse race. I don't think
you could go as far as to say, is it a one horse race? Because Liverpool, like they were last year, they were fantastic. Like they were one of the best teams in the world.
Yeah.
This year, they're unbelievable. Like I'm actually lost for words at how good they are. Like,
I think their signings were essential in my opinion.
Thiago,
Thiago's a bargain at 20 million.
I think that Diogo Jota, right, he's not going to start. But I think I've said it to you previously. In comparison to having Minamino and Shaqiri, who I think's out the door anyway, Diogo Jota brings you Premier League experience, Premier League goals, European experience in Europa League. He scored against Arsenal. I mean, that was ridiculous. He came on the pitch and everything went to him.
Yeah.
And it was. I said to myself, he's going to score.
What about our team then, Arsenal, on Monday night? What do you think?
But do you know, honestly, I can't fault us, and I'm not just saying that as an Arsenal supporter. I think we played as well as we could, but Liverpool are a different animal, mate.
It's a weird sort of 3-1, because I haven't said this thought this in a very long time, but it was a 3-1 where I feel like it was such an unfair display of the actual game. Do you know what I mean? Because the way we played and we defended so well in that game. I mean, we that was our complete style. That game was just defend, have 11 men in the box and counter.
Saying that, a couple of years ago, you would not be thinking Arsenal are just going to defend. But we've got to talk about the key point in the game. Laka. What's he doing?
Well, yeah, he had some big chances that game. I mean, obviously he scored and he looked very upset when he came off. You know, he's my honest opinion, he's got to finish it, Sam. He's got to bang that.
It's poor.
He's got to bang it.
He's had a practice because he had one before it was offside, and then the next one's even worse.
Yeah,
like, it's not acceptable.
Yeah. I think he'll be upset about that, but hopefully, you know, he'll bounce back from that in a better form.
But I do think, honestly, I think regardless, obviously I can't say because it didn't happen. If we would have scored and made it 2-2, I still think we would have lost because Liverpool are just they're a different animal. Yeah, they're outrageous.
Okay.
Well, before we go, you've got a bit of a football story, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I do know whether I was going to bring up this episode or not, but I'll mention it. I'll mention it. So, I actually have a really cringe-worthy sort of story I had with actually quite a famous. He's a famous former Arsenal captain.
World Cup winner.
And he's Per Mertesacker.
The big friendly giant,
BFG. And the story is, I was sitting in some very nice seats at the Emirates Stadium, and we just sat down, and I know there was about maybe a minute before kickoff. Right, literally a minute, and I could see all this sort of like kerfuffle on the left. Kerfuffle. Is that a really bad word to use?
Oh god.
No.
Kerfuffle.
So I saw all these people sort of like standing up on the left hand side. I'm thinking this is odd because everyone else sitting down over him. So I look over, and obviously you can see him because he's just.
He's a big geezer.
Yeah, he's a big geezer, and I was with my partner Sophie at the time, and I said, Soph, they're getting pictures with Per. Do you want to get one? And she was like, oh no, I don't want to.
I can imagine.
I was like, come on, let's go. So I literally like drag her over there, and I'm waiting, and then there's like one guy, and I'm thinking this game is literally going to start in like 30 seconds. So I was so nervous. I was actually so surprised how nervous I was.
Really?
I couldn't even say hello to him. It was bad.
So how did it come out? Like, was it just like not even words?
So I sort of like looked at him and like nodded with like a camera, sort of like kind of taking a photo like that, and And he's like, yeah, sure. And
Sorry, what was that accent?
German. Yeah, so there I am. I've got my like phone like up in the air with me and Soph, and I was so nervous. I pressed the lock button instead of the instead of the volume button, which takes the photo. Yeah, so it was so embarrassing because the game. They're literally now like I think they were flipping the coin.
Oh, you literally, and you couldn't go back to like, oh, excuse me.
No. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Oh, you actually did.
Yeah, and honestly, I just thought at this point, in that moment, I'm thinking he could just walk away now. Like, fair enough. Like, you messed up your chance. Like, and he was actually nice enough to stay there. He didn't say anything, but he was nice enough to just stay there. And obviously, it takes me like 5-10 seconds. And I've got a really nice awkward photo with him, but it's so cringy for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've got to rate Per for the level of patience.
Yeah, definitely.
The game was just about to start, and this dickhead is absolute dickhead.
The dickhead being Jack,
yeah,
not Per Mudsucker.
Is locking his phone for a selfie. Yeah, so
yeah, I mean, you're a bit of a
I'm
dickhead.
really happy I got that. And if you are listening,
I mean, he's definitely listening.
Thank you so much, because that was so nice of you to be so patient.
And Per, if we can get a photo at some point, that'd be very nice.
Yeah,
and I won't lock my phone.
Yeah, and I will actually talk to you this time. I will say hello, and I will talk to you.
Oh dear.
Not in the German accent.
Definitely not, because that wasn't very good.
That would be offensive.
Wouldn't do it again.
Okay.
Well, that's been very good.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for listening, guys. If you did like this episode, please let us know in the comments, like, subscribe. And Sam, what do they do if they do all that stuff?
If they do all that stuff, Jack, they are not only a legend, but the biggest legend going, mate.
Oh, mental.
Absolutely mental.
Mental scenes. Well, thank you for listening to this weekly episode of Football Corner, and we will see you for the next one.
And when you're older,
be lucky.